Hello, Math 101 students. This is a walkthrough for the bank reconciliation that is in Chapter 5, Section 3 of our 14th edition textbook. This example is example 2 from page 191. So this one is a nice example because it's all on one page. So it is a nice one to do because everything you need to compare is pretty much right next to each other. In general, even with the modern applications such as banking apps and online banking, this process is still an important process to identify any issues, planning if you're making any purchases to be sure you know what your balance is. The process in general is just comparing activity that you've done and activity that the bank has processed. Whether you wait to do it once a month when the bank issues a statement, or whether you go to a banking app or online banking and do it at any time, the process is still important and it is still the same set of steps. So the general idea is a double check. You are taking your checkbook ledger, if you keep an actual paper ledger, or maybe from an application like QuickBooks or some other software, and you are making a comparison back to the bank. If there's activity that you didn't write in, you're going to write it in. If there's activity you've already done, but the bank has not yet processed, then you're going to take that into account with the balance the bank has and see if the two balances end up matching. If they don't match, you need to look a little further for any errors, such as maybe you misread a 4 as a 9, or maybe you wrote 9-7 instead of 7-9, little things like that. You want to uh, be on top of it once in a while because errors do still happen. And when you pay attention to your bank account and what should be coming in and what should be going out, you are in a better situation. I'll just make a quick comment here. Some credit cards and banks now also offer different services, such as trackers and statistics that you can pull up at the end of the year or pretty much any time to see what you're spending money on. Keep in mind, they might categorize things a little differently than you would. So sometimes they need a little bit of looking at, but that can be handy, especially for identifying anything that you signed up for that you were using for a while, but really don't use anymore, that you want to turn off and unsubscribe from. So every now and then it's good to pay attention to what is regularly going out of your account. And do you really use that? From a budgeting perspective, is that something it's time to stop? So with all that said, this application, again, it's all on one page for example 2, so it's a nice one to look at. The general idea here is that you are checking off your checkbook ledger. So here on the left would represent what you would have in a paper checkbook ledger if you have a paper ledger. If you're using a program, I mentioned QuickBooks. If you're using another program, they all have a ledger in them that you can pull up and check items off. You can download bank statements and do a reconciliation electronically as well if you have that set up. So if you're doing it by hand, you're making a comparison between what you've already written down in your ledger and the activity here on the right that is showing in the bank system. So everything that's here will eventually go through the bank, and you want to be sure that your account is set up and ready to handle it. So here we have, right, Barber's advertising, you paid a bill, you did it electronically, so electronic check rather than a check number written there, like in the lumber one right below it. Right, so this is a listing of the activity that you've done as you've done it. And then here is the listing from the bank of all the activity it's processed. Keep in mind, sometimes the date will be a little different because you're probably writing down the day you do it and the bank is writing down the day it officially processed it, which is sometimes a few days different, especially if you do activity on the weekends or, on a Friday. It might not post until Monday or Tuesday. Some systems still say, you know, may take 3 to 4 business days to process and show in your online banking system. So keep in mind, those dates don't have to match up exactly. All right, so that's it. I already put a little text box here. When you're looking at this on page 191, there's two items that were already checked off. The Miller's Outpost and the Wayside Lumber were already checked off, which means last time you balanced your checkbook, those were already checked off and had already been processed through the bank. So that's why they already had check marks. So the rest of these, we're now going to make the comparison ourselves to what the bank has and check things off. For purposes of our recording here, I have some X's instead of check marks because I was able to do the X's with a text box pretty easily. So I believe I have the spacing set up. We'll see how it goes. And you can do the same thing. You can print this page off from the e-text so that you can write right on it. If you don't, you know, if you got a physical book and you know you're going to sell it back, you should not write in it. So go to your e-text and just print that page off. And that way you have it to write on. All right, so here we are. We're going to take a look here and work our way through it. So we have a deposit here, $983.37. And I see that deposit is listed here, right? Amount of deposit credited listed here. So we're in good shape. We're going to check that off. And I believe I can do that with, sometimes with these annotations, it doesn't let you, and sometimes I can. All right, so I have that X'd off. Remember, my X is like a check. 22 cents in interest. So this is a account that earns some interest, right? Savings accounts typically earn higher interest than money market accounts or checking accounts. So if you have a checking account that earns interest, if you keep more than a certain amount, you may be seeing these small interest numbers since current rates are pretty low. So most likely it's not a very large number. So here we have 22 cents, and obviously we don't know what that is until we get our statement. So that's something that once we check with the bank, we would then write into our ledger. So it's up to you how you like to do this. Personally, when I'm doing this for myself, I would put a circle around anything that I know I need to come back and do something with. So because I know I need to do something with that, I put a circle around it. Now, unfortunately, that probably messed up my text box, but we will give it a try and see if we can get back into our text box. Checks paid, check number 724 and check number 726. So we want to identify them here, 724 and 726, but we also want to double check the numbers. So this is something where, you know, maybe it got read wrong. Maybe somebody had to hand type it in and mistyped it. A lot of banking is electronic now where they slide them through little readers, but it's good to double check. So 724, $836.15, that checks, and 726, $59.25, so that checks as well. So you're in good shape to put X's there. And I believe I still can. 24. Oops, I may have gone one space too far. I might not be lined up perfectly there, but right, if you printed it off yourself, you can get your checks exactly in the right place. All right, so we're done with those two. We can move on down to the next part for electronic withdrawals. Right, so this might include an electronic check, right, where you have an electronic payment and you've typed in your checking account information and they call it an e-check. So it would not necessarily have a number, but would be an electronic payment. Debits, ATM, you know, those max fees, and then bank fees. So $73.08. That looks like it's right up here. So we're in good shape to check that off. $450 for supplies. That looks like it's right there. $49.07. And when you're taking a look at this, you'll see $49.07 is not listed anywhere, but yet it was a debit, something that came out of my account. So when you look here, it says returned check. So in other words, in a previous cycle, you made a deposit, or it's inside of one of those two deposits possibly, but you made this deposit and your bank is saying, no, the person that wrote you this check does not have the money to cover it. So it's a return check of $49.07. So now you're also going to be charged a fee of $7.60. That total fee for the month might include the fact that there's a return check. Be careful to know what fees your bank charges you. Some of these fees nowadays are, between $30 and $40 for this type of issue, whether you bounce a check or whether somebody else gave you a bad check, right? And return check fee. Sometimes these fees can be pretty bad, so do be careful with that. So the next item, $80 for an ATM, we do have that. So let me check that one off. I need to go back one space. Well, having a little trouble getting my X to be quite in the right place for that last one, but not sure why it's kind of floating funny for us there, but $80, that's one's checked off. I'm going to go back over and get, I guess I'll get a rectangle for this since I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing. Return check fee and this $70.60. Scoot that up a little so it's easier to read. All right, so these are two items we did not have in our checkbook ledger, so we need to add them in. So now we're ready to start the process with the reconciliation form right below. And as soon as I scroll down, all of those items that we just put in here in red are going to shift locations and go away. So I'll give you a minute to be sure that you have that, and just pause the recording if you need to, right, to see the three items that we identified and to be sure that you have everything checked off that we checked off. All right, so when you're ready, go ahead and scroll down. I am going to, hopefully, one second, pull over another document where it's already typed in so we can click back and forth if we need to. I think I need to do, here we go. All right, so on this file, we have already started to type the information in. It says enter the new balance from your bank statement. So that was in the top, I believe, right corner of our information from the bank. So present balance up here in the top right corner, $1,754.27. So in the top right corner is what the bank is saying its current balance is. See if we can do, I don't think I can do a side by side with that one, but maybe. I think it'll be a little too small if we try to do side by side. So the idea here is that we get our information from what we just did here and we start putting it in, and the computation is guided by the pluses and minuses, so there's plenty of guiding work there for you. So here we have $1,754.27, being what the bank said its balance was. That was the top right corner of the information from the bank. It says to list any deposits made by you and not yet recorded by the bank. Well, over here we had this one $875.45 that was not yet listed here under deposits, either electronic or physically going to the bank. There was not listed there. So $875.45 we need to add in, because when the bank processes it, it will be added into our account. So what the bank believes our current balance is plus the activity it will process gives us an intermediate value here. And you can do that addition and write it on the line, or you can just fill everything in and do the addition and subtraction all at once to get to this adjusted balance. You're welcome to do it either way. So the other thing happening, right, this was money going into the account. The other thing happening is money going out of the account. So what activity does the bank still need to process? Well, looking over here at what was not checked off, we have a check that we wrote for $67.80 and another check, it looks like $97.34. So we have a couple checks that we wrote that have not yet made it through to be subtracted from the account according to the bank. So we need to subtract that amount. The total, $165.17, represents what the bank will do when they receive our checks. In other words, whoever I paid, they receive the check, they go to the bank, they deposit it in their account, and the money comes out of my account. So subtraction, and it's right there in the form. See those additions and subtractions? The form really guides what you need to do. But if you think logically about what will the bank do once it receives this activity, that'll guide your adding and subtracting as well. So this is the adjusted bank balance. So this is a double check process to know that you haven't made any mistakes and be sure everything's in good shape. You will do the same thing. You will do the same thing starting from what your ledger tells you, right? Your ledger. Looking if you have a paper ledger or a ledger that's electronic. So $2,521.00 is what your ledger currently shows. You know that when we went through this, we had a couple things in red outlined. We had 22 cents in interest to add. And we had to think about this other activity, return check, $49.07. We just found out about that when we checked our activity with the bank. So we need to subtract that out from our account. And $7.60 in bank fee. It was a service charge. So that also needs to be subtracted out. Now that we know about it, those are fees that came out, right? A withdrawal, something that came out of the account. So in here, I'm going to come down, and I believe my image of the calculator is covering what to do. So let me scroll down in the other one, then we'll come back to this. List the checkbook balance. Write the total of any fees. So we had two fees. We had a return check fee and then a $7.60 service fee that the bank charged as well. So add them together. That total gets subtracted. Right, little subtraction sign. Again, you can do it one step at a time or write in your subtractions, write in your additions, and then do that step all at once. That's up to you. Interest was 22 cents, so that comes onto this line. And then we get our total, and it should match, right, the total here. That new balance should be the same. After we adjust both of them for the activity, they should match. If they don't match, that's when you need to look for any mistakes, whether the bank made a mistake, whether you misread a number or forgot to put something else in. And either way, if they don't match, there's a mistake somewhere to find. All right, so here it is for this problem. $2,521 was your ledger balance. The total of those two items that we had a check and a fee, right? That return check was $49.07 and $7.60 was that bank fee for a total of $56.67 that we needed to subtract back out. And then the interest they credit us for the month or period of time, add that in. You do that math and you do get the same number, $2,464.55. So you will get that same number. So I hope this has been helpful. If you don't usually do this process, I would encourage you to, at least go into your bank statements or bank activity once in a while and take a look at it. Make sure nothing looks out of place or incorrect, because things do happen. Whether it's a payment that wasn't credited properly or something that didn't go through when it should have gone through, just be careful with that and check your activity. I do recommend checking it regularly, even if you don't do this whole process. All right, well, that was our bank reconciliation that we did not get to in class, so I hope this has been helpful. Bye-bye.